Hey guys, I thought I'd just do a quick video on whether or not you should leave gasoline in your generator when you're storing your generator long term. So let's get to that. Alright guys, there's always a little debate between generator owners on whether or not you should store your unit with gasoline in the tank or drain it out after every use before you put it into long-term storage. I'm a firm believer in leaving gas in your tank, but there are 3 things I do to ensure that it runs properly by storing gasoline in there the next time you go to run it so that it doesn't gum everything up, and we'll get to that next. Okay, number 1 is that you want to have your gas tank filled up to the max fill line. So whatever the gallon rating is for your tank, you don't want to fill it up to where there's no air anymore, but to the max fill. Your user manual should tell you where that is. But basically leave just a little headroom for the air to expand, your vapors to expand and contract there, but you want it topped off. And the reason for that is basically if you had maybe this filled up 1/3 of the way, the gas tank here, and you have 2/3 of it with air, once it gets cold especially, is that you have moisture in the air naturally, we all know that, but once it gets cold, the inside of your gas tank will start to act like a pop can that you pull out from the fridge and set out in a warm room. It's going to sweat on the inside from the condensation in the air. So you're going to have moisture in the air within the gas tank, and then as soon as this gets cold, that moisture in the air is going to bond and stick basically, and it'll condense right on the inside of the gas tank. Once you get enough of that, it runs down into your gas, and then you have water mixed in with your gasoline, which is no good for anybody. It's not good for combustion, and it's definitely going to gum up everything downstream of this. So definitely keep your gas tank topped off, and that is step number 1. We'll get to step number 2 next. Okay, the second thing I do to make sure that my gas stays good in my generator for long-term storage is to use ethanol-free gasoline. And that's a big debate, again, between generator owners on regular versus ethanol-free. Look, the generator can run on both. It can run on regular, it can run on ethanol-free. There's no doubt about that. But what I'm talking about is long-term storage. How is that gasoline gonna react to everything over 10 months of storage, 12, 15 months of storage in your gas tank and in your fuel lines and carburetor? I recommend using ethanol-free. And the main thing with that is that the ethanol in the gasoline, in my opinion, will bond with moisture in the air. It attracts water. Ethanol attracts water, so it wants to more readily bring water into your gas mix. From the engines I've worked on, the ones that used regular gas with the ethanol in it, the fuel lines were just in poorer quality, and the carburetor jets and everything were typically gummed up more. So I haven't seen that problem on my engines when I use ethanol-free gas that is treated. And that's the second part, is you want to make sure your ethanol-free gas is treated with either stable or SeaFoam or whatever product you use to make sure that oxygen will not react poorly with your gasoline for long-term storage, because the number 1 killer of gasoline long-term is oxygen. It acts as a free radical, and it will break down the chemical additives and the gasoline itself. And in your gasoline, it's not just straight gas derived from oil. This is full of hundreds, if not up to 1,000 different additives that aid in performance and the stability of your gas. Oxygen is the number 1 killer of that. So use a stabilizer to treat the gasoline, keep it topped off to minimize the amount of air that comes into contact with it and to minimize the amount of condensation that can occur within the gas tank, and use ethanol-free gas to make sure that the gasoline itself doesn't want to bond with moisture in the air. Now let's get to the third reason, the third thing you should do when you store gasoline in your generator to ensure that it'll run right the next time. Okay guys, the third thing to always do to make sure that your generator will run right when you store gasoline in it long term involves the shutoff process. And by that I mean shutting off your fuel shutoff valve every time when your generator comes to a stop. And killing your generator that way, not just turning the kill switch on. I mean turning off the fuel shutoff and then allowing your generator to run for 2, 3, 4 minutes until it finally stalls and uses up all of the fuel in the fuel lines and all of the gasoline in the carburetor. And that's important, in my opinion, for this reason. If you remove the bowl here on the carburetor, which is normally full of gasoline, if you just turn off the kill switch, you're going to have a bowl full of gasoline. That is going to be pushing up on the float And at the end of this float here, if we take out the retaining pin, is a needle, the needle valve. That shuts off the fuel flow into your carburetor. So this has a rubber tip on it, and that goes into a seat right there. And if your float needle, or if your float is always up because there's gasoline in the carburetor bowl, this rubber needle will always be pushing up with pressure against that metal seat. Over time, that will deform that rubber tip. It's just pressing rubber into metal, and after a long time of doing that, it's just going to have basically a ring built into it. It'll lose its sealing quality, and then you're going to have issues with your generator flooding because gas is now going to get by the float needle. It'll either run out, it'll overflow into the top of the carburetor, it'll flow out your air filter, or it'll go into your combustion chamber, and then it will flow down into your crankcase and mix with your oil, and then you're going to have a whole mess that way. So definitely make sure that when you go to turn off your generator after every use, especially if it's going to be a long-term, more than a month storage, you want to turn off the fuel shutoff valve. That will eliminate the fuel leaving your gas tank and going any further. And then your generator will burn up the remainder of the fuel in the carburetor bowl, which will reduce that. It'll relax the float, and then the needle will be allowed to drop and keep its integrity over the long term. So those are the 3 ways to keep your generator running properly if you choose to store it with gasoline in the gas tank. And I prefer to do that, of course, just so if an emergency strikes, all I have to do is wheel this thing out, turn it on, and it's ready to go. I don't have to go and mess with putting gas in it or doing anything else. The only reason I would not keep gas in it is if I intended on having to haul this somewhere. So if I had to lift this up onto a truck bed or whatnot, I don't want the extra weight. So that would be the only reason why I would not store with gasoline in it. But hopefully these tips were helpful to you if you learned something, or if you have anything else to add to it. If you disagree with me, go ahead and leave a comment below. Leave a like if you'd like, subscribe. Visit my website, homebatterybank.com. We cover everything from generators to inverters, battery banks, and just dealing with power outages in general. So hope you have a good day. Thank you for watching.